All right, Lacey, thank you for joining me today. I'm super excited to have this conversation with you. We met a couple of years ago through the AFC accredited financial counselor um, program accreditation. We were in a team together, and I just saw what you were talking about, what you were sharing, and I was like, this woman really knows what she's talking about. Let me reach out to her. And since then, you've just been giving me a lot of great advice and been so helpful. And I just really wanted to get to know your story, your financial journey a little more. And I know it could be beneficial for others. So I definitely wanted to record it and share it with others. So again, thank you.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yes. So I start the show by asking, what is your earliest memory of money?
This one might blow you away, but mine goes way back. My very first memory with money was wanting a pair of, I'm not making it up either, lace gloves, even though my name's Lacey. I wanted a pair of lace gloves, and I was maybe 4 or 5 years old, and
Okay.
I wanted them for Easter Sunday to wear with my dress, my Easter dress. And they were, this is old school, so just, I know I'm dating myself, but they were in the like a Belk catalog or Sears catalog. They were in some type of catalog. And we actually were, at the time, were living in Germany. My father was in the military, and I really wanted these gloves. And I forget how much money they were. Obviously, I was very young, so I don't remember the finer details. But I remember I wanted them, and my dad told me that he wasn't going to buy them for me, that I could use part of my little bit of birthday money. If I wanted to contribute, my parents would pay for half and order them for me. And I remember I saved up and or gave him all of my money, and then they paid the other half, and then I got these gloves for Easter, and I was so excited. It was very rewarding and something that I wanted, and I had to take ownership or part ownership of that purchase. And I just always remember that's something I really wanted, but my dad had a discussion with me about what it costs to buy these gloves, and to think about, did I really want them? Did I want to take all of my birthday money and put it towards this purchase? He would help me out. But so anyway, I remember that. And then after that, growing up, one thing looking back, my parents always talked about money, not in a we need to make more of it or we need to do this or whatever, but just very practical discussions about money to say, hey, we don't have a blank check here. You're not getting that. Or at the grocery store, if it's like, I want this or that, nope, that's not in the family budget to get a bunch of extra snacky stuff. We have to buy the raw material to make food. We're not going to buy a bunch of prepackaged stuff. Or so there was always these discussions, especially around, my teenage years, when it was like, I wanted nicer jeans, I wanted nicer clothes, I wanted, new shampoo and makeup and things like that. My parents were crystal clear that we're not paying for all of that. We have the basics that we will cover. And if you would like to pay a little bit more for shampoo or you want to pay more for clothes, then you're going to cover that difference. So I think that was something that's led me on my journey, is having discussions and being practical about it. Is like, hey, there's not a money tree out back. In fact, I think my dad said that many times, like, this is we're just not pulling it off the tree. And I have 3 siblings, so it wasn't like I was an only child and it was just whatever I wanted. It was like, nope, they also want some things too. So we're not going to be at everybody's whim here. So I think that was really a big part of my journey, is having conversations and communication about money. And I think that's kind of probably what led me into coaching, probably.
Yeah, and it's amazing. It started for you at 4, maybe even a little earlier, but what you can remember is 4. And from then, that kind of shaped how you handle money or even your thought process with it. And then you mentioned you have some siblings, so it wasn't just all about you. There were decisions that had to be made. A you had to be thoughtful, right, with your spending and buying what it was that you wanted. Because sometimes people are just mindlessly buying and shopping and swiping, but you, from an early age, were taught something different.
Yes, it wasn't always about me. And I think I
Mhm.
got that also too from being in the military and serving, is there is a greater good. There are other people here involved. So you can't always make it about yourself and your needs and your wants. I mean, obviously I always had a roof over my head, but it was, hey, there's this contribution that you have to make to things. Like you have to work and earn it, but also when you do that, you value it more. And I think that was the message too I received of the whole ordering the glove situation, is that I did value them. I remember trying to squeeze my little hand into them when I was way much older, and they did not fit. But I remember like, oh no, I bought these gloves. So every Easter I would like try to squeeze my hand into them to the point where they didn't fit anymore. But I did value that purchase because I had invested in it.
When you got those gloves, like how did you feel? Like you knew that part of your money purchased them, but like as a 4-year old, like what was that feeling like?
I was really excited because I thought they were beautiful and they went with my dress, and it wasn't, too deep my thinking, but I remember being excited. And my dad probably could have paid for, 90% of them, and I only paid for 10, but my memory was that I had to give a little bit of my money in order to get these. And so there was a lot of pride in the fact that I did that I contributed and I got what I wanted because I took some type of action.
Yeah. So, what was your first job? Were you excited to get your own job to start purchasing the things that you wanted, or how did that go?
Yes. Back to our previous conversation, my dad and mom aren't going to pay for everything. And so if I ever wanted extra, I had to find a way to make money. So I actually started working at what I think is a young age. I think I was 13 or 14 when I started working. So on
Okay.
military installations, you were able to bag groceries on the weekend at the commissary, the grocery store on military installations. And you had to get there early, and you had all the kids lined up, and they had this marble system. And so there were two different color marbles, and I think they only picked like maybe 10 baggers each day. So one, you had to get up early. You didn't know if you were going to get to work, but you had to go show up, and then they put in the amount of marbles and the 10. Somehow they counted the people that were there, and if you drew the right color marble, you got to bag groceries for the entire day. So I made a ton of cash, and that was wonderful that I had that opportunity. So that was kind of my first job, but my first real paying job was I bussed tables at a restaurant. I'll never forget. It was called T. Jimmy's, and it was in Pennsylvania when my dad was stationed at Carlisle Barracks. And I loved it. It was a really great opportunity. I was really into making my own money and having, I don't know if you want to use the word power or that capability, but I really liked that I worked hard and this was mine. It wasn't anybody else's. And I love the fact that when my mom and dad told me I couldn't have something, I'd be like, that's fine. I'll just do it myself. Like I will pay for it. I use that as like, I don't need your help. And that was wonderful to me to be able to say, I want these jeans. I'm going to get them. I want these sunglasses, or I want to drive around town for hours. I can pay for my own gas. So I liked the idea of having my own money so I could do what I want and I wasn't at the mercy of other people. So those were kind of the first two jobs, and I always have been working since then. I mean, maybe maybe when I had kids, I took a little break there, but other than that, like I really enjoy working.
Yeah. And it sounds like it kind of also instilled some independence in you and just feeling, in addition to, empowered, but like the independence, like I could do this and all I have to do is work for it and I got it. Which also leads to feeling like stable. Like, did you always feel stability growing up? Were there any moments where you didn't feel stability?
Oh, yes, I had a very stable and blessed life growing up. There were times though, because again, my parents made it crystal clear, you know, we're not financing your entire life. So it was clear from a very early age, you either go to college or you're paying rent the day you turn 18 or the day you graduate high school. That was clear. And buying the extras and any mistakes I make, that I'm going to pay for those as well. And so I can think of one time I felt very unstable was right after I got my license, I hit a parked car, and my dad talked with the person who I hit their car, and they worked it out that I would pay out of pocket for to have that car repaired. And I remember my dad talked it all over and came home, and I was thinking, oh, my dad's going to pay it. He's kept saying we're going to pay it out of pocket, and that way, it doesn't have to get reported to insurance. And when we got home, he's like, you do realize that when I say we pay it out of pocket means you're paying it out of pocket. And it was a lot of money for a 16-year-old. It was something like $600 or $700 that I had to pay for that repair. It was just like the bumper or something that I pushed in. But all the money I bagged groceries that went towards paying for that car. And I was very nervous because I'm like, how am I going to come up with this money? And my dad's a pretty serious dude, so he wasn't joking around, and I knew he wasn't joking around that I was going to pay that bill. And so I was like, all right, how am I going to make this happen? But then it was also a really great lesson learned because that was all cash that I was counting out to my dad, and it was just going away. So I worked all of those hours for that money to just not even be in my pocket. So I thought, I'm gonna be a lot more careful when I drive because I don't want to be doing this again. And anyway, so things like that. And the military, me deciding to get out of the military, that was a very unstable financial time for me. Like, what am I gonna do? I have to work and go to school. In marriage, starting out, having kids, there's been times like, okay, well, do we have enough money for this? Or, you know, things that you want, but not necessarily can afford. Like, I want a really safe car for my kids to be driven around in. I want to be in a really nice neighborhood because my husband's going to be deployed. I'm going to be alone for a year. So it's kind of weighing the things that you want with what you can afford, and then the things that you're willing to give up. So okay, well, I don't need a nice car, but I would like a really safe house. So what are you willing to give up in order to get the other things? So I think I have a good foundation, but yes, like everybody else, there's times where it's like, this doesn't feel great.
Yeah. But still, like having the education, like in addition to the discussions, did they teach you how to manage money? Were you taught how to balance the checkbook, how to proper ways to invest, like just different financial literacy skills? Was it just discussions or did they also teach you the skills like budgeting and all that too?
There was definitely discussions, but I feel like it was more general, but it
Okay.
was also by example. So first of all, we were always told that you can't spend every penny you have or that you make. Like that's not sustainable. You have to put money away. You have to save for emergencies. There are things in life that are going to come up, whether you like it or not, and you're going to have to pay for them, i.e., the car, me hitting it. Um, but then also, I always saw my parents sitting down at our dining room table paying bills. That was, a weekly or monthly thing that I saw my dad do. I also saw the discussions they had, particularly about the food budget, because a family of six, that was a tight budget. And four kids can eat a lot of food, especially four teenagers. So we could do some damage. I mean, as soon as they got home with groceries, it was like they were gone. And so that was always a discussion. Like, this is the money for the groceries. And my mom always said that, like, this is how much we have. This is how much I'm spending. So, no, we don't have. I know you would like this flavor of chips, but we're going to get the regular chips because that's what everybody likes or can do. Um, so I think there were general discussions and examples. And then the other part was when I started earning my own income, when I was a W-2 employee, from day one, my dad made me do my own taxes. That was something he never helped me with. I mean, guidance. So, and that was back in the day when you actually had to go to the library and like get the forms to fill out, a 1040 EZ, and he would help me if I had questions. But basically, I had to sit down and read it and figure it out. I had to get the booklets and read through everything and do my own taxes every year because my parents really wanted to instill that they're not going to be around forever. They're teaching me to be a fully functioning adult. And I need to have some of these things under my belt so when they're not around or I'm out on my own, that I can handle it. But they're there for the mistakes, like hitting the car or not having enough money to cover something. So when I'm under their wing in their household, the mistakes aren't as costly and, devastating to a person when you have somebody there helping you through that hard time. So that when I'm on my own, okay, now I have a skill set, I have some frame of reference and my own system to kind of make it through this difficult time with money or challenge with money. So those were kind of the things that they did. But the investing side, no, not so much. Just you need to have something for the future, I was always taught, but not necessarily the stock market and, you know, stocks or index funds or things like that. But I was
Yeah.
told that, especially when I joined the military, my dad really wanted me to get savings bonds. He's like, you're going to blow through a lot of money. He's like, if you could just do this one thing. And so I had it automatically set up where every month I got $100 savings bond. So that way I at least had something left over from my paycheck, which, you know, I'm in hindsight glad that he made me do that, because I do have something to show for then.
Yeah. So was there ever a time where you kind of did not follow the advice or the teachings that you learned, like like you grew up and kind of were out in the world on your own and like kind of went wild? Did you ever do that?
Yes, about 95% of the time. I really did. I mean, I think when you're young, you have no frame of reference and you don't have many problems. You don't have many responsibilities. And therefore it's like, all right, I have all this money, I can spend it. And if I run out, I was in the military too, and I made a lot of mistakes. And so I always knew, like, hey, I'm still gonna get a roof over my head. I'm gonna get food. So I definitely was spending money going out partying on stupid stuff, clothes, things that I don't even remember. Like, where is all of that money? And then, definitely running up credit card debt. I did that while I was on active duty. I actually started getting the credit card debt when I was in high school. I found out that because I turned 18 at the beginning of my senior year. And so I was like, again, back to, if I have money, I could do whatever I want. You can't tell me what to do. But that was great because I did start getting a credit card, and my dad was able to point out quickly, like, that's a huge mistake. And this is why it's a huge mistake, and work through that with me. But still didn't listen to that. Ran up more credit card debt when I was on active duty. I had to pay that down. I've paid down a lot of credit card debt, even when we were first married. So it's just something that happens. I think when you're young and not having responsibilities, versus now, I have a lot more responsibilities and there's nobody else to cover that. So if I am not thoughtful on how I spend my money or invest my money, then I am the only one that's going to be suffering from that.
Yeah, so it sounds like you had the knowledge and the teachings, but life and being a human being, like you're gonna make different decisions. Like not everyone is going to be really strict about their money, which is okay. So you've learned some lessons along the way, and then you partnered up with someone and started building a family. So you mentioned it, like when that happened, when you weren't on your own, you started having to think again, like it's not just me.
Yes.
So,
Oh, go ahead.
oh, go ahead.
Yeah. I I was gonna say that when you're younger, also too, that you're trying to have life experiences. So it's like, I need to spend this money. I need to go do this thing because I haven't had that experience. As you get older, you've had more experiences. And so you're like, that's not that big of a deal. Like, I don't need to spend money on that, or that's not worth it. So you start to have this more frame of reference. And then moving into marriage, I think you are taking two different backgrounds and putting them together with money. So the way that my husband's was raised with money is now colliding with the way that I was raised with money. And thankfully, he was raised in a household too where there were money discussions. And so that wasn't too difficult. I think as in a marriage for us and a lot of other people too, it comes down to how you spend your money, what you value. And so I like experiences. My husband might like a thing more than experience, or he wants to spend his money on fishing versus I would like to spend my money on new clothes or a massage or something like that. And so you're having this discussion that this other person just does not get why you want this so badly or why you value this, and you're not getting why we have to spend money on that thing that you want or that thing you want to do. And I think that's where the compromise comes in with finances. And it's like, okay, well, we can do this thing for me this one time, and the next time we'll do it for you, or we don't have money for that, or we just have our own disposable income and you don't get to say anything about what I spend this amount of money on. So I think it's in the beginning new, just like marriages, like figuring out, I mean, how are you going to raise kids together too, because you both have your own different background with that. So you're starting to see how each other does it, things you like, things you don't like. And it's about having an adult conversation about those things and being practical, and then also trying to put yourself into that person's shoes to say like, okay, well, I could see why this, you like the outdoors, this is peaceful, this is whatever it is, versus, okay, I see like you would like to look nice, or you need it for work or whatever it is. So I think that is hard, but totally doable. But you can't not do it. I think that's a problem a lot of people have with money, is that it's easier not to address. Easier not to address debt, easier not to address a disagreement with money, but that's not going to make it go away, and it's not going to make the conversation any easier. So having it in the moment is important. I'm not saying if everybody's keyed up and angry or sad or whatever, that's the best time to do it, but making sure whenever it's calmed down that it gets addressed, I think is important.
Were you aware of like the differences you and your husband have the difference in how you think about money, how you manage money? Like, did you have those conversations before getting married?
We did, definitely. And I think the military was very helpful in that. We were dating while we were on active duty. And then I separated from the military, and then my husband deployed. And so he needed somebody to take care of his finances while he was gone. And so I actually did that for him. Um, when we were still dating before we were married. So he saw how I did things, and he told me how he wanted things. And so I was trying to respect, this is how he wants everything paid and when and how, to who. And he saw that I respected that. So I think that was actually a really great thing prior to our marriage, that we did have those discussions. It was brought about by a deployment, but still it showed that mutual respect. We're both very blessed in the fact that we're very honest about money and have those discussions. Sometimes people aren't, and like want to, shop on the down low or buy something on the down low. I think we, both like, no, that's not a good way to start things off.
Right, right. So it's just always been open communication when it comes to money in your household.
Yes, not
And
always agreements. I want to be clear. Not always agreements, but definitely always conversations. And also too, we're both very practical in handling business. Like, this is how we run our household. We feed our kids and how they have the environment to grow up in. So we got to make sure that we're covering that.
yeah, yeah. Was there any turning point with your finances or just in life in general that kind of you weren't expecting? And obviously you've been prepared, you're a person who prepares, but were there any turning points or any major moments in your life that you can think back to, like regarding your finances?
I think a couple of things. One, when I was on active duty, I had some friends. I had two friends that actually was prior to active duty than while I was on active duty, but two girlfriends that I used to go out with all the time, but they both had children. They both had a child in high school. And so they had to be a lot more serious about their money. They had responsibilities, even though they were my age, and, we're still going out and partying and stuff, but they had to be home for their child. They couldn't spend all of their money. So that was, looking back, really great examples to see these two moms, single moms, that were handling their business and taking care of their daughters. So that was really cool in hindsight. I didn't really appreciate it in the moment. I think when you're young too, there's a lot of things you don't appreciate. But and then also, I think becoming a military spouse and my earning ability being impacted by my husband's career, that was a turning point for me as well, that I went into business and entrepreneurship. That's not necessarily something I ever thought about doing or thought I was capable of doing. So that was a turning point because I wanted to make money. I worked really hard to build up my education and my experience, and I wanted that. And I think another turning point was still in the same realm of entrepreneurship, is that running a business costs money. And so that was very stressful. And when I started my business, I bootstrapped everything. So that means, it's coming out of my household income. So that was, frustrating at times, because I'm like, I need to do this, or I need to spend money on this. And when you start a business, it is your imaginary friend. Nobody else sees it except you. And so it's real hard to say, I need to spend money on my imaginary friend, to somebody that doesn't see your imaginary friend. So not only do they not see them, now we're investing money in this imaginary friend. So that is sometimes hard for people that have never been in entrepreneurship to wrap their mind around. as a business is being built. So I think when it comes to finances, that was, a pivotal point for me, and really getting control of that to be like, all right, this is the business budget, and making sure I'm earning enough. So I got out of the bootstrap phase real quick to be like, no, this is all business money, and separate those two. So I think those were kind of three pivotal points.
So yeah, you mentioned, I'd never heard of that before. Imagine thinking of your business as an imaginary friend, but I love that. Um, so how were you able to navigate that? Like having someone who doesn't see the vision, but you have to cohabitate and you mingle money. And you mentioned you had to get out of that phase quickly, but can you share any ways you were able to navigate that or can help someone else who may be going through that?
I think communication was number one. I feel like that is, who I am. I'm probably an over communicator, but I think so people understand things and they know what to expect. So I always explained it. And same thing, I mean, I use it in business too, like talking with companies, and I'm always about telling people what I'm going to do. Then I do it, and then I remind them, remember I told you I was going to do that thing, I did it. So I think that was part of it, is to do these benchmarks, be like, I'm spending on this, or I'm doing this, so this is my plan for the business. Hey, by the way, I did that thing. Now I'm moving to the next lily pad. I'm just jumping around here. But I think that was important. And then delivering, that I'm not wasting family money or family time. That's a sacrifice that you make to build a business. And I don't want to look back and be like, that moment that I should have been working, I was goofing off and not really being productive and getting the tasks done that I needed to accomplish my business goals. I don't want that. I don't want it to think about that. And so that was very encouraging for me. It's like, okay, we've now made this investment. I need to deliver, or we've lost the investment. Just like, and even if money was not involved, we invested our time, our relationship, time I could have spent with my children, time I could have spent with my parents or my grandmother, has got wasted. So I think me trying not to squander the opportunity, I think was important. And then I'm also very practical and frugal. So if I could do it myself, I'm doing it myself. I'm not paying anybody else to do it. Now I'm getting to the point where time for me to do something versus the money I can make elsewhere versus paying for that service. So that's something that I think further along in business that now I'm having to conquer or look at better, that I'm not spending my time as efficiently as possible. But in the beginning, it was like, no, I'll figure it out. I will research it, and make sure I paid the least amount of money possible for that. So I think that was really important. But if you are with somebody, it's not even a marriage or dating, even family. If you're saying I'm starting a business, it is your imaginary friend. Only you can see it. You are creating something out of thin air. And it's really hard to draw your vision for somebody. You see it in your head, what you're capable of, but it's really hard to articulate that to somebody, that, hey, this is what I envision, and I know I can do this. Because people that haven't been in entrepreneurship, one, they're a little scared by it because they don't know what to expect, and they don't realize the sacrifice that comes with it, and the commitment, those type of things. And I think that scares people away. And then you're a loved one, so it's like, I don't want to see you struggling, I don't want to see you stressed, I don't want you to, for you to waste your money. So it is out of good intentions why they have these concerns, but it can also hold you back. It can pull you back down to be like, okay, if that's all you're hearing all the time, be like, are you sure you really want to do this? Like, it's expensive. This is going to take a lot of time. Like, are you the one to be doing this? Or, how are you going to rise above all these other people that are doing this work? Or, what's so special about the work that you're doing? So there's all of these things that can make you doubt yourself, when you need every bit of strength that you have to build a business. You need every bit of your mental capacity to withstand negativity from the outside, but also from the inside, from you doubting yourself. And so sometimes you need that from the people that you're around. So I think letting people know what you need from them is the other part of that, is communicate with them, let them know what you're planning and your goals, and let them know when you've reached them. The other part is like, hey, right now I don't need any help with negativity. Like I'm all locked up on that. I need help with positivity. I need you to say, you know what? I know today is a really bad day, but I know you can get up and do this. Like you just got to face it, just put one foot in front of you today. That's all you need to do. Like, and keep going. I know the money is stressful, but the money's going to come. Like if you keep building, keep your vision going, it's going to happen. People are going to start to believe in you. And so I think letting people know what you need from them is something that I wish I would have done better. But like I don't need that. What I need a hug. I need a pat on the back. I need you to actually fold my laundry because I'm mentally exhausted and I can't do that. Or so telling people what you need from them, I think is really important. And then also letting them know in the future it's not going to be perfect. Even if you get to a certain point in your business, your finances, that there's still going to be hiccups. Like, so we're not resting on our laurels here. We have to, continue to go, and we're going to have challenges. And I need you to be there again when those challenges come up. So I think those are some of the things I would say.
Yeah, that kind of, I'm not in the military, but that last point that you made kind of sounded like a roundup. I need you to be there and know that there will be challenges, but we'll make it through. So definitely sounded like a lot of mental strength on your end, and just the knowledge that of what you needed. You mentioned that you didn't know at the time that you know, should tell them what you needed, but were you able to still somehow get the support of others? Like, I'm sure as you were proving what you were doing and communicating and telling them what you've been able to accomplish, people came around. But yeah, how did people come around to your vision, your imaginary friend?
Well, I have actually been really blessed. My whole family has been very supportive, and my husband, but I think in the beginning, people don't know what is truly like, okay, let's give this a try. Like we'll see if it works out. And so those are things that is difficult. You need somebody to be like, you know what, like you're taking this thing to the moon. Yeah, I got it. Like you do it. Like whatever you need, that's the kind of stuff you need. And but it's hard when again you're creating something out of thin air. So but there are people that I have helped with business, and they have family members that are like, don't do this. Like you are totally hurting us or whatever. But I think the biggest way to get people to come around and to really believe is to deliver. So it's like, hey, I remember I said I was going to do that thing. I was going to start a podcast. Guess what? Here's my first podcast. Here is my second podcast. I would love for you to download and subscribe, pointing that out to people. Or, hey, guess what? I had 5 coaching clients this month. Pointing out what you have accomplished, I think is a big way to get people to come around. And then the last part, I think, is money. When people start to see money coming in, and that's when people really believe. It's like, okay, this isn't an imaginary friend anymore. It's actually income that's coming in. I think that's helpful. And then also to see if you're creating a product. Hey, this is my first product and here it is. And this person bought it. And, but also too, I think it's important to surround yourself with entrepreneurs. If that's the route that you go, that being around people that have been there before you, that they're going to be your biggest supporters, because they know exactly how hard it is. They're not going to tear down anything. Like in the beginning, you're just trying to make stuff work, make it stick. And that requires a lot like of trying and failing, trying and failing. Other people see that as like, oh, they failed again. They failed again. An entrepreneur is going to be like, no, they're getting closer. They're getting way closer. Like they're almost there. They don't, failure is part of that. But I think people that love you and care about you, they don't want you to fail, but that's part of entrepreneurship.
Mm-hmm. Can you get into a little more detail about how you manage your finances as an entrepreneur and balance that with like your personal finances?
Yes. So I'm really about handling things as they come in. I mean, even our personal finances, I have a lot of things paid automatically. That's very helpful because I am an entrepreneur. I'm a mom. I have a lot of hats I wear, and things can get lost in the shuffle if I'm not careful. So I do try to automate things. I try to set calendar reminders if it's something that's not automated. I handle bills that come in, as they come in, I pay them very quickly. I use a lot of mobile bill paying and things like that. For the business side of things, same thing applies. I have a lot of things automated. I do try to be very careful about what I spend money on, just like in my personal life. Um, I don't want to pay more for something if I don't have to. I don't want to pay for something I'm not using. So I try to be mindful of that. Sometimes I've spent money on things that I ended up that weren't of value to me. Like I don't want to name names, but anyway, I recently paid for something in my business that I thought was going to be helpful and was totally worthless. And I was so mad that I spent the money. Um, I also try to make sure I cancel things because a lot of them, a service, they'll be like, it's this amount for a year. It's a cheaper price if you pay for the year. Well, they'll start renewing that stuff. So I try to make sure that that's in my calendar to make sure it gets canceled in time, those type of things. And then if I have a business goal that I want, how am I going to pay for that? If it's, I want a sponsor for my podcast, how am I going to get a sponsor? What am I going to do to get a sponsor? If I want my website to make more money, what am I going to do to make sure my website makes more money? So it's really about setting goals and how much money I want to make and how I'm going to accomplish that. And a lot of that has to do how much money I want to make my paycheck. So considering that is like, how much does it cost to operate my business? How much is my salary? How much is, because you have to pay for things in your business for future things. So like right now I'm working to improve my website. That is a lot of money. And so I had to put money aside for that, or I had to pick up a little business side hustle in order to make more money to do that. And so thinking about those things, I think, is really important. Just like you would do a budget and planning for your personal finances, you still have to do that for your business. There's a really great book called Profit First that helps break down how you should separate your business income, which I think is really important, is to have these buckets that you're paying for things and knowing where it's going. So make sure that you're, again, not spending every penny that you earn in your business, that you have money for the future to pay for problems, because in business you need things on deck, like tax help. You might need bookkeeping, you might need an attorney, you might need somebody to review a contract, those type of things. So you want to have money to be able to pay those expenses in your business. Just like our house, we got termites, I don't know how many years ago. Actually, it was right after we bought our house. And it was like,
No.
okay, now we got to handle this termite problem. And that costs a lot of money. And so it works kind of the same way in your business. Like, crap's going to come up. It's going to be expensive. It's not a question of if, it's when and how much. That's
Yeah.
really what it comes down to. And it applies to entrepreneurship and how you're going to do things. So I think always keeping the eye on, you have to make money in business. If not, it's a hobby. And so I'm mindful of that. It's like, I have to earn. In order to earn, I have to perform. And, performing means creating content and creating products, creating services, whatever that is. It also means marketing. I have to put myself out there. I have to be present. I have to do speaking. I have to do social media. That's all part of the business goals of me earning a certain amount of money. These are all things that have to go into place to make that happen. So I think those are kind of things I do with the business side of finances.
Definitely makes sense. A lot of us get caught up in the hobby phase with our business, or allowing it to become a hobby and not making money. But that's definitely something I've learned from you over the time that we've known each other. It's like, do the work, do the work, do what you said you were going to do, and make money from it or monetize it some way.
Yes, and I think that's really hard when you're starting out, because you are creating something out of thin air, and so it feels awkward. For example, if are creating a financial guide to help people with their money, and you want to sell that, that feels weird at first because it's something you created. But
Tell me
if
about it.
Google came to you and was like, "Hey, we created this guide for finances," you'd be like, "Holy crap, I was going to do that, or I could have done that, or I have a better version of that." So it's just the fact that it has somebody that's more established name on it. But what's this say that you're not Google or the future Google? And so, but you will never be the future Google if you don't create that first thing or do that first thing, that service. And same thing, if your personal life and your finances, like, you're never going to make the amount of money that you want if you don't go to school, get training, get education. go to that interview that you're scared of, ask for the raise that you're scared to ask for. You know, if you want those things, you have to produce, you have to go after them. It applies the same thing in business, is that you have to earn, you know, to accomplish the things that you want.
And you mentioned before entrepreneurship wasn't on your radar. How did that come about? Well, you talked a little about how you decided to leave the military. So it sounds like, different things happened in your life. Like, were you always only planning to be in the military for a short period of time? And of course, you weren't planning on entrepreneurship. Like, how did those two decisions come about?
I think when I first joined, I really just wanted to earn money. I knew at that point I wanted to go to school, but I wasn't ready for it. I was just kind of spending money, and I always had working. Again, if I wasn't working or going to school, I, you know, had to pay bills and things like that. So, but I joined thinking, okay, this will give me time. This will buy me time to figure out what I want to do with my life. And then after I got in, I thought, hey, I want to actually stay in the military 20 years. And then I met my husband, and he was in the military. He wanted to stay in for a long time. And I thought, like, hey, if this relationship goes further, we didn't want both parents to be active duty. That was just something that, you know, in our relationship, if we wanted to have children, we wanted somebody to be at home. And we had a lot of friends that were both on active duty, and we saw how that impacted their children and their family life. So it wasn't something that was, you know, works for some people. We just knew it wouldn't work for us. And so then it was like, okay, also then that's when I was started back to school, and I thought I could get out and get my business degree. I at that point wanted to learn more about investing in finance. And I thought this might be the next step to increase my financial knowledge and learn about investing, is to go to school for that. And I did. And I graduated. No, I didn't. I got married on my spring break while I was still in college after I had left the military. And I rolled right into being a military spouse. And so it was very difficult for me to build my career in finance around my husband's career. And then I also didn't know what I could do with my finance degree. I didn't really understand, hey, I could be in business finance, corporate finance, or I could be a financial advisor. I didn't understand all the positions. And then we started having children, and I was a stay-at-home mom, but then I was always volunteering and keeping my experience up. And then that's when I kind of decided, okay, hey, I'm going to become a financial planner. And then I realized I can't do that with my husband. He's gone every other year. The year he's home, he's gone for half of that year to training. And our children were very small at the time. So I thought, like, this isn't sustainable. So how am I going to make money if I can't be a financial advisor or planner? And so then I got really mad. Actually, I think a lot of things that I accomplish is, it makes me angry, and then I do something about it. And I was very angry that I didn't have control over my earning ability. And so then I thought, okay, I'm going to make my own career, and I'm going to be able to take that with me wherever the military sends me.
Yeah.
So that's when I started looking into entrepreneurship. And I had a business degree with a concentration in finance, and I still didn't really understand what it took to run a business. You know, and I did some of those things, like not really focused on making money and focusing on all the wrong things, like my logo, my fonts on my website, or like color schemes, and just things that weren't going to make me money. I needed coaching clients. And so that's when I really started getting into the business side and trying to figure out, how can I actually make money at this thing, and made it work. And then also I feel like I'm just very determined. And so I've just never quit. I think that's the biggest secret, like, to it all, is that I didn't necessarily want to become an entrepreneur, but I wanted to make money. I wanted to be in the career field that I actually had education and training in. And to do that with my husband's career and the life that we both chose, it meant that I was going into entrepreneurship. And we have just worked really hard to make it work, even though it has been challenging building a business and the military life. And then my husband getting out of the military, our children, that type of stuff. So I've just been determined since then.
Yeah, I love it. I'll let you wrap it up, but what is one advice or any advice that you would share with people who are navigating their financial journey, whether, they are military or entrepreneurs, anyone? I think your story, a lot of people could relate.
So I would say when it comes to your money, to keep things simple. I think often people use jargon or hear things on TV or podcasts or read about it, and it's intimidating to them. But really, the basics is what's important. You need to spend less money than you make, and you need to save it and invest it. You need to save for emergencies. You need to save for the things that you want, save for your goals. And then also, you need to save for your future self, because right now in your earning years, you are earning money for two people, for yourself and your 85-year-old self. And if you are not saving money and putting it away, you're not going to have the quality of you life that you want at 85. So I think that's really important for people, is to keep it simple and keep an eye to the future. And then also to believe in yourself, that nobody's perfect with money. People make mistakes, and you'll continue to make mistakes, and you'll continue to learn, but that's not something that is unique to you. Yes, you are a unique individual, but everybody has these problems with money, and they sort it out and figure it out. I would just say that you always try to improve. Always try to improve your knowledge and your skills, and practice by doing your budget, or, making sure that you're saving, looking at your HR packet and looking at all of your benefits, and making sure that you are using everyone that's offered to you and getting the most out of everything. And then also just staying on top of it and being mindful of it, being aware of it, and not just letting it sit and forget about it, is to have this review where you're reviewing your information for your budget, but then also reviewing your knowledge and increasing that as you go along. So I would say keep it simple, believe in yourself, and challenges will arise, but you have to handle them when they come up. And you're going to be handling them with the the information that you have at the time. So you're going to look back and be like, man, I should have done this different. But you're looking at that through the lens of somebody that has more experience and knowledge, because they went through that experience. So you're just going to have to do the best you can in the moment, and then know that the next time something like that comes up, you'll handle it a different way. But I think being kind to yourself through all of it is really important.
I love that. A great, a great way to like kind of put that finishing touch on there. But I just wanted to one more time, how would you describe what you shared from the beginning to the end? How would you describe the emotions you felt while on this journey? Well, not the end, but where you are today. You started sharing about the lace gloves that you wanted and how excited you felt when you were able to get them, but also like the pride that you felt because you did contribute to it. But yeah, any additional emotions that you can explain or go into details about, like, or just summarizing the entire experience thus far?
I think so far there is pride, that there have been a lot of challenges financially in life, or just challenges in general in life, where I've been humbled and I've had knowledge and I haven't used it. And that's hurt me. And then there's regret. That'd be like, why didn't I do better? Where you're negative self-talk and beating myself up. Like, I could have done better in that situation and I didn't. But I think overcoming that, and I still do, like you said, the story's not over. I still have challenges in my finances, especially in business. And, but I'm determined. I know what my goals are. I know what my personal goals are, my family and my life there. I know what my business ones are. So I think really knowing what you want is important. And through my journey, there has been mistakes. And so there's frustration there, but there's also great pride in overcoming the challenges and looking back to be like, you know what? I didn't quit. I got back up and I figured it out. And now I can do better. And not only can I do better, I can help other people do better. And I think that's really highly motivating to me. So I guess I'm inspired by the lessons that I've learned and able to, in the ability to help other people.